Over the years, Grand Theft Auto and Rockstar have become household names. Even back in the day, these games were often the subject of recess discussion. Everyone could tell you their favorite and why. Whether it's San Andreas and using the jetpack to reach the building tops just to see if you could, or Vice City and its amazing soundtrack. My personal favorite is Grand Theft Auto 3. I used to love grabbing a cheetah or an Infernus, then I'd go to the airport on Shortside Val and rip around underneath all the planes with the 6-star wanted level. The tanks and half-tons would always crash and blow up. It was an absolute blast. But with how advanced and detailed the most recent installments are, it's hard to imagine what this juggernaut of a franchise looked like in its infancy. And before we go too far, it's not lost on me that every single one of us has played a Grand Theft Auto game at one point or another. But in order to understand the subject of today's video, we first need to go back to 1997 and take a brief look at Grand Theft Auto, aka GTA 1. This may be a hard pill to swallow for newer fans or younger gamers, but hear me out. The game you're seeing on screen is basically a very bare bones version of what we have today. There was no huge sweeping redesign where they wiped the slate clean and redid everything from the ground up. GTA 2 is just GTA 1 but better and with more features, and GTA 3 is just GTA 2 in 3 dimensions but again, better with more features. Core aspects about the gameplay and design philosophy that were there on day one are still present, even in GTA 5. Guns, health, and armor can be found around the city, at hospitals and police stations for example. Certain parked vehicles trigger missions when entered, and there's a spray in a bomb shop. Even the pager and payphone missions in GTA 3 are a remnant of the original games. With every entry, the devs took the recipe and improved it. All this to say, it's quite impressive when you really think about it. But I digress. GTA 1 had a unique, for the time and genre, bird's eye view, but it's not just a static bird's eye view. It's supposed to be the point of view from a helicopter that's following you around, and it's absolutely horrendous, but more on that later. GTA 1 has you play as one of 8 criminals getting missions from payphones to advance through the levels. The cool thing though, you don't have to do the missions. The objective of each level is to reach X amount of points, and while the missions help you, mostly anything you do gives you said points, which again is the objective. So you can easily just put those payphones in your rearview mirror and roam around to your heart's content. You can go shoot people, you can go blow up cars, you can go steal buses and get said buses stuck in alleyways all over Liberty City, Vice City, or San Andreas. You heard me. The original GTA featured all 3 of the cities that we've grown to know and love. In any case, the level of freedom that GTA offered was unheard of, especially for a game released in 1997. Now, as we all know, Grand Theft Auto games traditionally take place in a parody version of good old America, but back in 1999, the team over at Rockstar decided to switch it up, instead taking us across the pond to merry old London. And now that we have a rudimentary understanding of what Grand Theft Auto 1 is, we can finally talk about the subject of today's video, Grand Theft Auto London 1969. But first, we need to boot it up. Want to know how an expansion pack on PS1 worked 30 years ago? Buckle up, I'll run you through it. First, you pop GTA London in and wait for it to spin up. Then when prompted, you replace that disc with the GTA 1 disc. After that loads up, you then pop the GTA London disc back in, all while looking at this vibrant blue screen with blurry text. It gives me a headache. So I'm pretty sure what's happening is GTA London piggybacks off GTA 1's disc data, while keeping some of it but replacing the rest of it with its own data. Or something like that? That's the best I could surmise. I'm sure someone more knowledgeable could explain it better than I have, and if you're that person, let me know down in the comments below. But the 2 games do have a lot in common beyond the data they share, and that's why we briefly had to go over Grand Theft Auto 1, because Grand Theft Auto 1 and London are, from a gameplay standpoint, the exact same game. GTA London is GTA 1 just with a fresh coat of paint. A red coat. See what I did there? Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, GTA London was developed by Rockstar Canada and released in 1999 to mixed reviews and an average score of about 70%. GameSpot stated, "There isn't much new in Grand Theft Auto London 1969, adding that all the gameplay problems from the base game remain, such as poor control, frustrating mission design, and mediocre graphics." IGN said, "The open-ended gameplay doesn't really have you do anything different from the original GTA." On the flip side, the audio was universally liked. IGN declared it the very best attraction to GTA London with its accurate retro 60s sound. The soundtrack creates an amazing London vibe. Well, I don't know about you, but based off those reviews, I'm excited to get into this and see what GTA London is all about. So, does anyone remember Grand Theft Auto London? So the game opens up with you standing on the street beside a car. There's no intro cutscene, no big police chase or explosions or anything like that explaining why you're there, you're simply just there. And to be fair, you don't really need an intro that explains the story so far, because there isn't really a story in this game to begin with. Or if there is, it's fantastically vague. Basically, you're some random gangster trying to make a name for yourself by doing jobs for various people, and that's about it. There are no major life-altering plot points like getting betrayed by Salvatore, assaulting a villa and killing Diaz, and there's no green saber or tenpenny forcing you around at gunpoint. You're just a guy in London doing petty crimes for random people. And this isn't exactly the worst thing, because Grand Theft Auto London is more of your old school arcade experience. The game is broken up into levels, and each of these levels has its own host of missions which give you points. All you have to do is reach X amount of points to move on. Although sometimes this is easier said than done, because if you fail a mission in this game, there's no cab waiting close by to take you back to the mission giver and you don't get a call to restart, you just fail. And there are no second chances, that mission is gone. This is cool, but it can be really brutal too. On my playthrough, I failed a few missions on level 2, landing me about 30,000 short of the 100,000 point goal. It then took me another 45 minutes to an hour just to get that 30,000. It was a boring slog too. I took a stolen car to the port to sell it, they only gave me 100 points for it, and just going on a rampage, killing people and blowing up cars doesn't give you points much faster. And up until this point, I'd forgotten all about the vehicle missions. Around the map there are various parked cars that offer side missions to help you reach the goal. And this would be great if finding them wasn't complete bullshit in itself. Here's how it works. When you're close to one, your pager will go off telling you, oh, the car is in the southwest side of whatever district you're near. Go find it. This brings up two issues. The first is that if you're zipping around, you're not going to be straining to look at the pager all the way up in the top corner anyway, and two, even if you do read it and are interested, you'll probably be so far away from the area in question by the time the text scrolling is done, so it won't matter anyway. This leads me to one of my biggest gripes with these games, and that's the lack of a map screen. Getting stuck on the wrong side of a body of water or trying to find these fucking vehicle missions can be extremely stressful. More so, I just want a way to see the wider picture and maybe plan my routes. Without any outside sources, the game, outside the small square in which you inhabit, is just a huge unknown. That being said, these games did typically come with physical maps, but why not just slap one on the pause screen? That would make finding these missions a whole hell of a lot easier. Once I did find a few with the help of the internet, I finally reached the goal and beat the level. And what's my reward for all this hard work, you ask? Take a look.
Listen, right, we're looking for a lad who can do his stuff. I've heard you're a bit tasty, no messing around or you get a slap. Remember, I'm the monkey and you're the cheese grater, so no messing around.
The fuck does that even mean? A sense of gratification aside, these scenes are your only reward for finishing a level, and honestly, the juice ain't worth the squeeze. They're essentially just stills, where the only animated parts are the eyes and mouth, which wasn't terribly uncommon for this time period. I think Twisted Metal 3 did the same thing. But the art style in this game just makes it look super fucking creepy, almost akin to someone staring at you through a painting in a haunted castle. Keep in mind, this is from the days before we got that trademark Grand Theft Auto art style that we all know. But the thing that really bothers me about these cutscenes is that the characters that talk to you don't really say anything. They essentially say, good work, don't mess up, now go back to work. It makes me wonder why. Why even include a cutscene if nothing happens in it? You gain nothing from this, it's just a waste of time. But enough messing around. let's address the elephant in the room, shall we? The camera. And there's no way around it. It's awful. God awful. It fucking sucks. It is the worst. I cannot voice my displeasure any more harshly than that. It may not seem so bad in the footage, but it's absolutely atrocious during gameplay. It's not simply an aerial view either. It's, like I said earlier, it's supposed to be the point of view from a helicopter flying overhead. I understand what they were going for here, and on paper, this sounds amazing. But in practice, it just jitters and frantically swings all around. This makes driving fast difficult, more so than it has any right to be. Again, amazing idea on paper, not so much in game. A static camera would have been so much better, either that or a smoother, more toned down variation of what we have. But credit where it's due, when driving the camera does position itself so there's less screen behind you and more in front, giving you more visibility. And while we're on the topic of the driving, it can be difficult staying on the right or I guess wrong side of the road when you're zipping around London with that top-down perspective. But this game has a cool feature where your vehicle will kinda snap to the road, making driving straight easier. And this is a great thing, until I remember I'm in London driving Mach fuck down the wrong side of the road about to crash head-on into a double-decker bus full of innocent people. When you're driving that fast, you don't have a lot of time to react. Sure, the camera does what it can, but still, you're never far from a collision in this game. And let me tell you, when you do crash in this game, it's fucking irritating. You kinda just bump into things. If you're going very fast and you hit a car, that car won't go flying like you would expect it would. They just come to a dead stop and become annoying roadblocks that you gotta repeatedly butt into before finally shaking yourself free. That being said, one thing I've always remembered and praised about this game was the visible damage on vehicles. Sure, it's very common nowadays, but not so much back then. I've always appreciated how, if I crashed headfirst into a brick wall, my car would then look like I crashed headfirst into a brick wall. A few more crashes and the car would stall and die out on me if it didn't explode first. But when you have a moment, you can get out of your car and walk around, maybe shoot a few people. Speaking of which, let's talk about the weapons. This game only has 5 of them. The fist, pistol, machine gun, rocket launcher, and flamethrower, all of which are pretty self-explanatory and not that interesting. The fist, pistol, and machine gun are also fucking useless. You can't really knock anyone out because everyone runs the same speed, and shooting people in this game is way more difficult than it has any reason to be. There's no lock-on or auto-aim feature, and you can't strafe while shooting either, so unless the enemy is on this line, you're shit out of luck. Even adjusting your aim hardly ever works. You're always just missing who you're trying to hit. The shooting is so bad that anytime I'm tasked with killing someone, I just run them over instead. The flamethrower, however, is quite fun. Naturally, it sets people on fire, but its real talent is blowing up cars, which it does very efficiently. The rocket launcher does more or less the same thing, but it can blow up and set buildings ablaze too, which I wasn't expecting. It's a wicked little detail, and I bet my feathers that the Silence the Sneak mission from GTA 3 is a subtle nod to this. Anyway, chaos and bedlam aside, running around on foot is the only time you can really take it all in. On the surface, GTA London seems quite primitive. I don't blame you for thinking so, but there's a lot going on here that brings this pixelated top-down version of London to life. For one, the ambient noise. This is one thing the game does really, really well. You rarely have a moment in this game where you just hear dead air. You've got protesters, people talking, cars, horns, people walking around, engines, tire screeches, and just other random city sounds. You can even hear music playing inside cars as they drive by if you listen close enough. Even visually, the city doesn't look shiny and new, it looks lived in and grungy. The roads are all worn down from all the traffic, the sidewalks are busted in places, and alleyways are littered with trash. On top of that, certain areas of the city seem to look better than the more ghetto areas. And I mean, sure, there could always be more detail, but for 99 and a seamless level this size, it's hard not to be impressed. That is, until you get busted or nicked out of absolutely nowhere. I know I haven't touched on them yet, but the police are absolutely broken in this game. It's almost like no one even tested them. They can instantly kill or bust you. Making this even worse is that throughout your time playing, you'll accumulate wanted levels. This is normal, but the cops don't really chase you. They kinda just exist in the ether just off screen, waiting patiently to pop up out of nowhere and absolutely fuck you in the ass. I'm not kidding, most of the time I had no idea I was even wanted until I got nicked out of nowhere. This is very fucking frustrating. They always seem to pop up when you're not paying attention or when you're in a bit of a rough patch during a mission, which as I mentioned earlier, you get no do-overs. All my mission failures are due to the police. They're that brutal. So that's GTA London. There's not a whole lot else to say about it because, as I stated above, it's a very bare bones version of the GTA experience. But nonetheless, it's a fun yet frustrating and very interesting entry into the series. Of course, it's nowhere near a perfect game. I mean, how could it be? This is from the dark ages before you could pick up a hooker and run her over after the deed to get your money back. But all jokes aside, when the camera cooperates and the police don't arrest you out of nowhere, it's still fun as hell to bomb around in a Mini Cooper causing havoc in this game. And there's no way in shit I'm forgetting Grand Theft Auto London anytime soon. Before we go, and as a little bonus, let's go over Grand Theft Auto 2 real quick, cause let's be honest, when else am I ever gonna have the opportunity to talk about this game again?
Soul making, sound shaking, earth quaking, change.
GTA 2 takes place in Anywhere City, the first and only time the setting of a Grand Theft Auto game isn't directly based off a real place. Gameplay-wise, GTA 2 is quite similar to GTA 1 in London. The general gameplay loop remains largely unchanged. You get missions from payphones, and completing them adds to your score and multiplier, both of which still work the same way. Your goal in each level again is to reach the target score. On top of that, they also added a lot to the game, and refined the shit out of what was already there. One of the most notable new additions is the reputation system. Along with that comes changes to the payphones. You can now choose which of the 3 gangs you do work for. The more work you do for one gang, the more reputation you earn with them and lose with their rival. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Shooting has been vastly improved, and is now great with the inclusion of the auto-aim system. Honestly, this is the best solution. The shooting didn't need an entire redesign to work, it just needed some auto-aim. They also added quite a few new guns. On top of the fist, pistol, machine gun, rocket launcher, and flamethrower, they added dual pistols, a silenced machine gun, a shotgun, an electrogun, Molotov cocktails, and grenades. Hell, even vehicles in this game can now be weaponized, with mines, an oil slick, machine guns, or the classic car bomb. They also have armed jeeps, tanks, and you can now use the sprayer on fire trucks. The camera is much smoother and way less jittery, hooray. Driving is a lot better due to the braking and turning being more responsive and snappy, as well as the camera. The police are still absolutely brutal as shit, but they now set up roadblocks and actually chase you, as opposed to just materializing out of nowhere. Realistically, Rockstar added almost triple the content and made what they kept better. It's almost like GTA 1 and, by proxy, GTA London were a proof of concept, and GTA 2 is the working example, and one hell of a game to end the 2D era on. Seriously, if you've never played this game, I highly recommend. Woo, I went on a bit of a tangent there. Sorry about that, I got a little excited. At the end of the day, all 3 of these games are simply amazing. Of course, they're all very archaic, and they come with a sack full of jank and frustration, and a little bit of bullshit, but what's really important is what these games accomplished. That is, they built an incredibly solid foundation for Grand Theft Auto as a franchise to grow and flourish on. And it worked too, because today we have Grand Theft Auto 5, an incredibly detailed game and open world in which there's not a lot you can't do. It all started with this.
Grand Theft Auto.
But what about all of you? Did you remember Grand Theft Auto London? Or Grand Theft Auto 1? Or 2 for that matter? Did you like them? Which was better on PS1, GTA or Driver? Let me know down in the comments. As for me, I'm out. I really gotta switch up the game because I'm starting to have stress dreams about getting buses stuck in alleyways. But thanks for watching, I appreciate it a lot. Don't forget to leave a like, maybe a sub if I've earned it. But most importantly, you have yourself a wonderful day.
Might be pretty hard cause he's fucked on crack. G, Grand Theft Auto. You gotta make a mark and move where you want to. T, that determination to steal what you can and run from the nation. Hey.